So when did you come to America? Where'd you come from?
I came from Rome in August of 1971 at 11 years old with my mother, my father, and two of my sisters.
72, 71.
I moved to America with my family when I was 8 years old in 2003.
Because I was 11 years old, I had no choice. My parents came here. Why my parents came here? Because my mom had a family here since the 50s, and she knew that eventually she was going to come. Her mom, which was my grandmother, came here in 1950 something with two of my aunts, and they after they got here, they did some paperwork for my mom to join them, and that happened in 1971. Back then, everybody wanted to come to America to find work and to have a better life.
Yes.
Right.
My mom stayed over there, my sister too.
She had a family here,
Yeah,
a mother,
had
her
a
sister.
family.
So
Yeah,
she
more
came
over
to,
there.
she came here so she could be with her family.
Yeah.
Something they talked about for a few years. My dad had some business difficulty and they just wanted a new start. We had some kind of distant family here in New Jersey, so they just decided to make the decision. They wanted a fresh change. They wanted a new life.
It's tough. It's probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. As a child, it was hard. I couldn't imagine how hard it was for my parents as adults. You come to a country where you don't know the culture, you don't know the language, you don't know anything. I sort of felt like I became, I always say, I became deaf, and I became mute, and I became somewhat dumb because I didn't understand anyone. I couldn't speak to anyone because I didn't know the language, and I couldn't understand anyone, so it was like being deaf. It was hard. It was hard for a good two years, I'd say, before I could put a sentence together.
Right? Was
Yeah.
there anything immediately different? Culturally.
Also,
Like immediately?
I don't have a language.
Right,
I don't
right.
speak my language. The climate different.
Climate.
Yeah. So, a lot of trouble, a lot of things. I don't have a job. I don't understand la lingua.
Right.
So.
Culturally, did you feel like the food? I mean, everything from like the food to the way of life. Did you feel like it was different? Or?
About the food, that's all right. This say the food, no big deal. But the rest of the things very difficult also. Yes.
Right.
No.
It was like really different.
Oh, sunny?
When I first moved here, I felt like I was on vacation. It just like a long vacation because we moved in the summer and we just never had that heat. It was rainy and gloomy pretty much all the time. We didn't have pools or like weather to go to the beach, so it was definitely that was the first thing I noticed as a kid was how different that was. But yeah, everyone's more friendly. My family always joked about, we remember her name. Her name was Catherine, and she was a waitress at our first restaurant in America in Orlando. And she just came to the table. She's like, "Hi, how are you? I'm Catherine." And like we just weren't used to, anyone in the service industry really being just that nice. Yeah, so that was definitely something that we took away from that. That was our first real
That's funny.
experience. So.
That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. So you leave your country and you come here and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't belong, until you don't belong here because it's different. It's not your home. Until you adapt, and then you start to feel comfortable, obviously over the years, and then you go back home. And I remember the first time when I went back, looking out the window of the plane and seeing Rome from up above, and saying, oh my God, I'm home. And then when I got there, I realized that I really didn't feel at home anymore because I was used to the way, I got used to the ways here, the culture here, the way of things, the way we do things here. So now I'm in my home and I felt like a stranger. So you know what, sometimes I say, being an immigrant coming from a different country, it's like you don't feel like this is your, whatever country you immigrate to is your country, even though I'm here and I always will stay here and I'll die in this country. I'm an American citizen. Yes, it is my country, but yeah, my home is in Italy, right?
Right. So you're.
I feel like I'm here, and I'm here, but I'm really not at home. And then when I go home, I feel like, well, I really don't belong there anymore. So you kind of become like a person without a home.
So yes.
What's something different about Italy? I'm trying to get a reverse culture shock question
yes,
here.
Perché l'Italia non è la stessa di quella che ho lasciato io.
Italy is not the same
È differente.
as she left it. It's changed. It's different.
Sto bene qua dove sto.
Give me like one example of something.
Dacci un esempio di una cosa che è cambiato in Italia.
È cambiato tutto perché il governo cambia governo e non sanno organizzare bene le cose. Le persone hanno perso lavoro, disoccupazione, non c'è più lavoro e la gente diventa povera.
People are getting poor.
Yes.
All over Italy, or just in like the southern? Yeah. Really? Compared to, so that's different from America, which is more stable. America's a little more.
Sì. Yes.
But I think we always refer to it as back home, but I feel like I realized that I've been here for over 15 years, that this has become home, so it would definitely feel like I was visiting a place. Like I would recognize places, but it would feel new in its own way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
The Christmas with the traditional fish dinner, Christmas Eve, we do that. And the struffolies for Christmas, and the Easter egg, the Easter bread, or stuff like that. Che continui a fare I piatti italiani, le tradizioni italiane.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Della cucina, certo. Noi siamo italiani.
Col televisore.
Yeah, I would say through food, through your food, through your ethics, right?
Il programma italiano guardo e mi voglio aggiornare per la terra mia.
Oh, that
She keeps up to date with what's going on, current events in her country by having the Italian station and watching the Italian station. She could keep up with what's going on.
I would argue food as well. She probably cooked Italian at home.
Yeah,
that counts. Yeah.
Different words for things. Like we'd call, sneakers trainers or trousers, and my friends would make fun of me, and I would have to remember that they don't know what that is.
or the willy thing.
Yeah. It seems very small when you say, it's just words for things. But it was, as a kid, when you're learning the meaning of things, it was difficult to
Ascertain.
Yeah.